Hello everyone, welcome to CraftyGarden. My name is Stephanie and this is part 7 in my Fleece to FO series. I wanted to bring in 2 new fleeces to the Fleece to Finished Object series. So today I'm going to be talking about Shetland, and I'm going to share some facts and information, talk about the 2 fleeces that I purchased at New Hampshire Sheep and Wool Festival, and I do have I made a New Hampshire Sheep and Wool Festival video, which I will link in the down bar. If you haven't seen it already, you can feel free to check that out. And I also have all the information that you might want to find in the down bar with timestamps and an outline for the video. So you can feel free to pause the video and see what's coming up, or you can just watch it as is. So yeah, other information like social media and whatnot is down in the down bar. So yeah, I wanted to introduce my 2 new fleeces to the series and keep my Fleece to FO journey going. And I think it's really cool. I'm starting to see more people using hashtag Fleece to FO. And when I started this Fleece to FO series, I looked around and I wanted to create something that was my own. I didn't want to just do a sheep to sweater or something like that. I wanted to kind of like do my own thing, put my own spin on it. And I came up with this Fleece to FO series, and I'm pretty sure when I looked around there was no one else doing Fleece to FO. There are certainly sheep to shawls and sheep to sweaters and other people doing the journey of taking a fleece to a finished object. But I just when I created this, that's what I was looking for, was to kind of do something that was my own, and to be able to document my Fleece to FO journeys and things like that. So I want to keep it going. I would like to continue sharing different fleeces that I get and new things that I'm making and different ways of processing wool or washing wool or whatever it is that I'm doing. If I'm learning something new, if I'm doing something new, I want to share that with you guys. And I will definitely be doing that in this video. I'm going to be showing you how I comb with my brand new combs, but that's going to be later in the video. So first up, I want to talk about some Shetland facts, and I'm looking at my notes right here. I have my notebook. By the way, the lighting today, it's been very overcast and kind of dreary. So that I know the lighting isn't the best today, so I have to apologize for that. Yes. So I wanted to just mention a few facts and some interesting information. So first of all, Shetlands are part of the Northern European short-tailed family, and my Finn fleece is also part of that family. So I thought I would tell you that some other members of the Northern European short-tailed family are Icelandic sheep, Finn sheep, as I said, Gotland, Hebridean, I believe I'm saying that correctly. There are many more. I think there are 12 total mentioned in the Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook. So it is a primitive breed. It's considered a primitive breed. Let me scooch up. It's considered a primitive breed, which means that it retains characteristics from their wild ancestors. And it can be double-coated or single-coated or transitional, so it'll have some double-coated, some single-coated wool. It's also, according to the Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook, a conservation breed. Now, I'm not sure if that is still the case or if it's changed, but I think Shetland is quite popular now. It certainly has probably changed dramatically in something like 20 years or so, because I do know a little bit about the history of, not a lot, but a little bit about the history of Shetlands making their way to the United States, because there is a website, and I'll have to put it on the screen, and there's a woman and her husband who brought Shetlands to were the first people to bring Shetlands into the United States, and they happen to live in Vermont. Now, I live in Vermont. I think I skipped the spiel where I say that I live in the mountains of Vermont with my husband, our 2 dogs, and our cat. Because, anyways, but I live in Vermont, and I thought that was super cool that that the first people to bring Shetlands into the United States live in Vermont. They still live in Vermont, and they still have Shetlands. So I believe they have a closed flock, and they only have Shetlands. And so what I'll do is I will link in the down bar their website, and if you're interested in Shetlands and how they came to the U.S. or they first came to the U.S., I don't know the whole story, but I did read their story on their website, which I thought was fascinating. And if you're interested in that, I highly recommend reading that and the journey about how Shetlands came to the U.S. And it's so funny how the first person who brought them into Canada thought that they were these wild, like beasts almost, and was very concerned about keeping them separate from other animals and things. But it turns out that Shetlands are very sweet, almost dog-like in their behavior and attitude towards people. They're very friendly and will even wag their tail, which I think is cute. So anyways, I will link that if you want to go check that out and read their story. I believe it's Linda and Tut, and their last name is escaping me right now, but I will link it in the down bar. Okay, so a couple basic facts. So the fleeces weigh on average from 2 to 5 pounds, and they have a staple length on average of 2 to 4 inches. Of course, there's always exceptions. So the micron count is, for the most part, between 20 and 30 microns, but it can be finer than 20 microns, and it can be quite a lot. It could be very, very coarse, only suitable. Some of it is only suitable for rugs. It could be that coarse. So they tend to be triangular. Let me see, I have some right here. The locks tend to be triangular shaped. So they will kind of taper off like that. And my Finn fleece was also like that. Let's see. And they tend to have an open quality, so they're not quite as dense. The fiber isn't quite as dense as, for example, my Corriedale fleece. Very, very dense fleece. And this is just a little bit more open. And it's also known for being very easy to spin. So let's see, that's just a few of some basic facts. And a lot of this is coming out of the Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook. So I have that right here to talk about a couple things. So first of all, I do highly recommend this book. I love this book. I use it as a resource all the time. I am reading this and checking this. It's never too far from me. I keep it, out and about so that I can run over and read something if I want to. But I thought I'd also mention that you can find a lot of great information about Shetlands on the North American Shetland Sheepbreeders Association website, which is shetland-sheep.org. And specifically, you can find the colors and the markings with some photos. Unfortunately, they don't have photos of every color and marking combo. I don't even know if that's possible because there's so many variations. I'm sure it's possible, but there's so many different variations. They could have hundreds of sheep to show all the different variations in color and combinations of color with their markings. So I think there are at least 30 different kinds of markings, and there are 11 colors, which I want to show you. I have that pre-marked. So this is the Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook, and this is the page on where it shows the colors. So it goes from this very, very dark brown, which appears as kind of a black, to this half of the page is the brown family, and then we've got white, and then I have my other fleece information in here is trying to fall out. The white color, and then there are shades of gray, to dark gray to what they call black. So that is the range of colors for Shetland sheep, but I would not judge these colors based on the photo that you see in this book. If you don't have a lot of knowledge about Shetlands and you haven't seen different types of different fleeces, there's such a huge range. So don't look at Moorit in this photo and think, oh gosh, that does not look very good. I don't think that is a very nice looking photo of Moorit. This is Moorit, and this is gorgeous. It's this kind of red-brown. It's got beautiful crimp that you can see. Very lovely stuff. So don't judge these different colors. Don't think that like, oh, all Moorit is going to look like this, or all musket is going to look like that. There's a lot of variation. So yeah, I wanted to show you the colors, and the patterns are on page 193, so I'll show you that. So 193, it has a list of all of the different types of markings. So so naming Shetland colors and patterns. Names for the marking patterns on the sheep are traditional names based on a list found on the website of the North American Shetland Sheepbreeders Association that I already mentioned. The patterns are not mutually exclusive. A sheep can have more than one name. So here's a photo of some different colors, raw and clean and spun and woven. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back. So that's a lot of information that I found in my Fleece and Fiber source book. Some of that I think is also on the on shetland-sheep.org. So I think that's all the information that I wanted to say. Definitely go read about Linda and Tut. Like I said, I will link it down below, their story. I read that. It's been a little while now, but I remember reading that and just being fascinated by the story. It's a really great, she tells the story of how it all came to be, and it's just a fun thing to read if you're interested in Shetland or just sheep in general. And wool. Okay, so on to my fleeces. I have two fleeces that I'm going to talk about. One I have finished processing already. I have been determined to get this done. So I have been working on it quite a bit. So my first fleece is Laila. So here's the card that was included with my fleece. So this is Laila, and the shepherdess describes this fleece as Moorit, and I don't know how to say this word. I don't know if it's Iset or Iset, or I really don't know. And I'm not Scottish, so not from Shetland. So I'm sure even if I was saying it correctly, it still wouldn't be right because of my accent. So this is from Painted Knoll Farm. By Nadine and Glenn, and I reached out to Nadine, and she sent me a photo of Laila. So I've already inserted it at the beginning of this video, but I'll put it in here now as well, so you can see what Laila looks like. Oh, and she sent me a photo of her. I guess she just had a little baby Shetland, I think a ram, and she sent me a photo of that. So yes, I reached out to her. I got those photos, which was so wonderful that she was willing to share that with me. Okay, so I talked about what she described it as, but I think, okay, I'm going to show you the colors in a minute, and I have lots of photos, as well as the finished fiber that I've prepped. So I want to just say that I really don't know a lot about how the colors are classified, and I wonder if it depends. You know, like maybe different people would describe one color differently. It seems like because there is such a range, and because of the different patterns, that it's really hard to say. So if you look at Laila, she has very dark legs, And so I think that's why the owner is saying she is Moorit. But if you look at some of the fleece, if I just compare this to the photos of the colors in the Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook, then I kind of feel that this looks a little bit like Mioget. And I also don't know if I'm saying that correct. But so I think that is, this looks kind of like the Mioget color. Some of it definitely does look more brown, and or dark brown. And I was kind of saying on the New Hampshire Sheep and Wool Festival video that I made that I think it's fawn, but I've changed my mind since then. I think fawn is just this color with more white, so it's like a lighter version of this, and I think this is more of a Mioget. And I really feel bad that I don't know how to say that properly. So that's a fleece number 1, and that is Laila. So fleece number 2 is this fleece, this one, and I have some of this fiber right here as well. I have 2 bags that I'll show later. So this is fleece number 2. I do not know the name of this sheep or whether it's a female or a male, a ram. I suspect that it might be a ram because it was quite smelly. And so this is Moorit, for sure. This is Moorit, and it's almost all this color. There is some white, and I had a photo of the fleece all laid out before I skirted it, because I felt like I had to skirt it. There was some white fiber around the edges, but almost all of it is this color, and there is a slight variation where some spots are a little bit darker, some spots are a little bit lighter, and there are a couple spots that I think are in fact fawn, but there's just only a few teeny spots like that. So yes, it's Moorit chocolate color in my opinion, with a red, kind of red leaning, and it does have some white fibers and a few fawn spots. So those are just my notes on the color. So as far as washing goes, I've washed both of these fleeces. Not all of the wool has been washed. So what I did was I sorted both fleeces into sections. So Shetland has can have a range of different staple lengths across the sheep, and different qualities. So there might be very fine, very soft wool around the neck, and towards the back of the sheep there could be very coarse wool. So what I did was I sorted both fleeces into 3 groups. Very short staple length fiber, really coarse double coated, or just very, very coarse feeling but double coated fiber, and then the really like nice stuff that I wanted to separate and wash and prep first. So yeah, both fleeces were separated into 3 groups, and that sort of nice stuff is what I washed for both fleeces. So I do have bags of some shorter, coarser wool from both fleeces that I will deal with later. And I think I might end up drum carding some of it. I might do a few different things. I could make socks, and if I do that, I will certainly share that with you guys. So for the washing, Laila's fleece was so clean, very clean. It had a sheep smell to it, but it was a very like nice sheep smell, very clean smell for a sheep. Versus this fleece, the second fleece, which was very stinky. This was very stinky. Not quite so much of a pleasant sheep smell. It was just a little bit more of a barn smell. So I washed them differently, and I'm not sure if I'll regret that later or not, but it's what I did. So Laila's fleece I washed with Eucalan. I just happened to use the lavender scented Eucalan because it was cheaper when I bought it. And I only used hot tap water. So very hot tap water from in my bathtub. I use a bin inside of my bathtub. If you haven't seen part 1 of this series, I show how I wash my fleeces in part 1. So I highly recommend checking that out if you would like to see my way, and I know there are a few other people who do it this way as well. My way of washing fleeces. So I use these baskets, and I wash them in a plastic bin inside of my bathtub. And then I bucket water out so that I don't have dirty lanolin water going down my drain, which would cause problems that I don't want. So I did use just tap water, very hot tap water, and Eucalan for Laila. Which as a result means that, here, I'll go ahead and show you this. So this is the lightest color that I separated Laila's fleece into 3 color groups. This is the lightest color, and this is 95 grams or 3 3/8 ounce. So this is just shy of 4 ounces, and it's just going to be a slightly on the light side for a typical skein, but it's going to be very close to a full skein in weight. So yeah, this was the lightest color that I pulled out of Laila's fleece, and this has still has some lanolin in it. It still has just a little bit of lanolin in it, and it smells clean. It smells very nice, but it does have a little bit of lanolin. And when I was combing it, and when I was I use a button to dizz the fiber off, I could feel a lot of that grease on my fingers. So, but Shetland isn't as greasy as other wool. Like my Corriedale is way greasier. Okay, so for fleece number 2, which is this lovely chocolate number, but it was very dirty, really stinky. I decided to use, I bought, and I was going to bring it out, but I don't think it's worth it. I bought Unicorn, so most people know Unicorn Power Scour, but I went on their website and I found that they have Beyond Clean, which is the same, as far as I know, it's the same exact thing as Unicorn Power Scour, but without added scent, so it's unscented. And they might even advertise it for washing baby things for that reason. But as far as I know, it's the same stuff. It's just unscented. So I prefer unscented things when possible, or just more natural smelling things. Like the lavender Eucalan is fine. But something really like a pungent perfume smell can be too much for me. So I used the Unicorn Beyond Clean, which, like I said, pretty much the same stuff as the Power Scour, and then a mix of boiling water and tap water, which I did do for both of my first 2 fleeces. I'm getting ready to wash this fleece. This will be the first time I'm washing it. This is the darker second fleece that I purchased at New Hampshire Sheep and Wool Festival. I've already covered this one, and this is the same thing that I did for my Finn fleece. And Shetland is very similar to Finn. They are related. So what I'm going to do is just cover it with this mesh lightly and tuck in the edges, just as I've done here, so that it helps keep the wool from floating out of the tub when I'm washing. And if you want to see exactly how I washed both of these fleeces, like how I put them in the bins, and I use these little mesh pieces. If you want to see that, the Finn fleece that I washed, it's the same exact thing. So I didn't think there was any point in refilming how I washed it when it's the exact same thing that I did for the Finn fleece. So that's part 1 of the Fleece to FO series, if you want to see that. Okay, so that's it for washing. So after washing, I just sorted, and then after sorting, I began combing. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the finished combed top that I've made with Laila's fleece. So I've already shown you the lightest color. So here's the lightest color. This is yeah, like I said, just shy of, well, it's just over 3 ounces. And then this one is the darkest color, and this one is 51 grams, or 1 3/4 ounce. So this is the lightest, this is the darkest. Let's see if I can try and hold it while I grab this giant ball. And this, this behemoth is the medium color, which I had the most of. And I have 226 grams of this, or 8 ounces. And 8 ounces is the same as half a pound. So I have half a pound of this, and I will get 2 skeins out of it. And I guesstimated that when I was like looking at the fiber. I was thinking like, I'll probably get 2 skeins out of this. And it's like exactly a typical 2 skeins. So half a pound of fiber here for the medium color. And I think that's showing up pretty good. So let me just put the darkest color down for a second, because the darkest color is dramatically darker, but these two are only have a slight difference. I think it's noticeable, but it's not a dramatic difference. It's very slight. But I think once I spin it into yarn, it will be even more noticeable as condensed spun yarn. This will be much lighter in appearance than this. So yeah, that's this combed top from Laila is completely finished. I have these 3 beautiful colors. Super excited about that and how these came out. And if you might be wondering how maybe not, maybe you know how you've done this yourself, but you might be wondering how I made these really long, these are continuous strips of combed top. How did I get these super long? Like this will not break. This, well, I mean, if I break it, it'll break, but there are no breaks in this. If I keep unwinding it, it's all one solid length. Well, that's a little piece that came off of there, but it's all one solid length. So see, that piece just came off of there, but there are no like solid breaks in this. So I wanted to show you a little bit on how I do that. And I have lots of photos as well. So I'm in the middle of combing the second fleece. So this chocolate fleece, I am combing this. I only have a little bit done. You see what that looks like right here. So this is what it looks like as uncombed, washed locks. And this is what it looks like combed up. It almost matches my hair. So, so I wanted to show you how I do that with my combs. And I've mounted this to my sewing table. If you're wondering, because I normally, if you've been following me and this isn't your first time coming to my channel, I normally have a couch right here, and I've rearranged the furniture, which I've done in the past many times anyways. So I have these are pretty much brand new combs. Well, I did buy them new, but they are new to me and new. So these are my Valkyrie extra fine combs. And I've already pre-loaded some fiber on here. So like I said, these are my first combs. I am pretty new to combing, although I would say that I think it's very easy to do. I don't think you need tons of practice to get the hang of it. It's kind of pretty easy to do. So what I do is I just load the fiber on evenly, ideally, and I put it on so that I'm just catching the cut end. So I kind of think of this as the butt, and this is the tip. So the tips were growing on the outside. The butt I think of is where they sheared it. This was growing next to the skin. And I put that on there so that it just catches. And if it goes a little bit over, it's okay. But you don't want it to be like that, where it's really sticking out. I mean, it could be over just a little bit, but just catch the the cut end, the butt. So I just load the fiber on like that until I get to an amount that I'm happy with, and this is about as much as I'll put on there. I think I could probably put another layer, but I prefer not to put too much fiber on there. So I could comb with this base that I purchased. This is the Valkyrie base that I purchased. This is a clamp that I borrowed from my, there's a tool that came with my Strouch drum carder, and I just borrowed that clamp to use for when I comb. So what I do is I tend to comb with just my hands and not use the base. I use the base when I diz the fiber off, which I'll show you in just a minute. So the first thing I do is I like to comb just like this. So I always want to comb away from my face. And you want to be very, very careful. These are very sharp. I have scratched and poked my knees and my wrists and different, poked some holes and different things, including this base has a couple of pokes in it. So be very careful. These are very sharp. You could have different combs that are more, have more of a blunt tip. These are very sharp, very pointy, and dangerous. So be very careful when you're using these. So what I do is I usually start from close to me and move away. So I just go and grab just at the tips like this. And I try to be careful not to go too deep and grab too much fiber. I just want to stay right at the outside edge. And if I do grab a little bit too much like that and it tugs, I just pull it back out, find another spot, and continue just lightly combing. So one thing you can do that I watched a video, and I'll link the video that I liked for combing. I think I used, so I'll link that down below. So the lady talked about flipping this in your, getting used to flipping this. And that's what I do. So I'll just flip it down like this, and then I will work maybe a different angle that I couldn't quite get before. So once everything is nice and open like that, I can start maybe taking bigger chunks. And then flip it over, do this side. And I'm always combing away from me so that these sharp things aren't coming towards me, they're going away from me. Yes, I cannot tell you enough. If you are new to combing, then I cannot warn you enough to be careful. If you are very experienced with combing, you're probably not watching this. If you're very experienced with combing, then you probably already know the dangers. I heard somebody somehow got one of these jabbed under their fingernail, and that just sounds horrible. I would like to avoid that. So I'm getting really close to getting about as much of this fiber off as I can. And after combing, I think when I first started doing this, I would try to get every little last bit. But after a while, I kind of stopped doing that. So there's just a teeny bit of fiber left on there. So I'm just going to leave that on there, and I'm going to start transferring back. So I just keep my hands the same. I don't change hands or anything. And now I just start loading it back onto this comb like this. Be careful that you're not jerking your hand off like that. Letting your hand go off, and hit you in the face or someone else or anything. So you want to just watch what you're doing, watch yourself, watch your animals, or if I find a spot that wasn't quite opened up all the way, I'll just comb it and then keep going back to moving the fiber back over to the other comb. Okay, so I do flip carefully. I will work the other side when I get towards the edge, but be very careful doing that. And you know, if you hurt yourself, that's on you. So be very careful. So at this point, I just take this off. I don't worry about it. This is just a little bit of waste. It's probably not stuff that I want in my combed top anyways. So at this point, I put this comb away and I come over to my base. I don't normally do this here. This is just for the sake of the video. But I come over to the base, I set it on the base, and you know, make sure that this is all nicely combed. And for both my Shetland fleeces, just that little bit of combing that I showed you is all that I do. So I then take a button, which was just a button that I had in a pack of buttons. It is curved, and a lot of people who do use a diz do prefer a curved diz. And I use this crochet hook, which I believe is a size 7. It's a very small lace crochet hook. And what I do is I always put the button so that it's curved towards the fiber instead of curved away. I want that concave area to go towards the fiber. So I just take a little bit from the edge. I can, well, don't get a crochet hook stuck in it, but sometimes I'll take this and just kind of, I don't know what I call this, pull it together and, I don't know. So I just kind of do that. And then I grab a little bit from the edge, just a little. And then I take the crochet hook and I grab a little bit of the fiber, pull that through, and then I'm done with the crochet hook. That was just to get it through the hole. And then now I will just start pulling back and move the button forward. Pull back, move the button forward. And I just continue. And I work across. And what it does, at least I find what it does when I do it, remember I am a beginner, so this is the way I'm doing it right now. It's possible that I will change the way that I do this later, but so I work across, and I find it always grabs the longest fibers first, and then I will have to start working a little bit more carefully to get these fibers that are a little bit shorter. Not a lot shorter, they're just a little bit shorter. And it's still really good stuff. There will be really, really short stuff and stuff that I don't want left on here. So it's not like I'm grabbing undesirable stuff. And I did leave a little bit more there than I would like to have, but that's good for the sake of the video. So here is one little length of combed top. And what I did with Laila's fleece is take these bits of combed top and combine them using the same exact method, the same button and the crochet hook. I will take 2. Now this one has already been combined, so I took 2 and I combined them into one longer piece. So normally I combined in even numbers for Laila's fleece, so I would take 2 and combine them into 1, take another 2, combine them into 1, and then take those 2 and combine them into 1, and so on and so forth until I had all of them completely combined. But that's okay. For the sake of this video, I will just show you how I did that. So I don't use the base or anything. I just take the 2. I do try to keep the tip ends with the tip ends and the butt ends with the butt ends. And that's usually easy to see because normally it tapers off. has like kind of a rat tail. It gets skinny on the cut end, the butt end. And anyway, so I try to keep the direction of the fiber going the same direction, but I didn't really worry over it too much. So all I do is take the crochet hook and pull the two different pieces of comb top through the button, and then once I've got that started, I'll pull it to a good part where I want to start drafting, and then I'll just draft a little, draft a little, draft a little. And what this is doing is it helps sort of marry the two pieces of combed top into one longer piece of combed top. If I just pulled this through the button without drafting, I do not think that, well actually I know because I've seen it, it will not combine as well. See how this looks like one piece of combed top now? It doesn't look like two pieces sitting next to each other. If I just pulled this button through without doing this drafting, then it would just look like two pieces sitting next to each other. But by doing this drafting, I'm able to see, look, there's a spot right there where it didn't quite mesh very well. So yeah, I just draft, and that helps kind of marry the two pieces together. And so I don't need to show you all of that. Hold on. I don't need to show you all of that. I'll finish that later off camera, just for the length of this video. But that's all I do. I continue to repeat that right until the end, and then, like I said, I will continue combining even amounts together until I get one giant ball in this case, or maybe a smaller ball like this one. But the reason why I'm doing that, I could just leave those little segments of combed top alone. There's no need to create one long combined piece. But I wanted to do that so that I would have an even distribution of color. So if there's some slight variation, not as much in this fleece, you can see the difference in color too. This one's more of a red brown. This is more of like a walnut kind of brown, like a black walnut, and this is more of a red brown. Anyways, this fleece doesn't have quite as much variation as Laila did, but even like this medium color, for example, had quite a bit of a range from fiber, like colors that were closer to this lighter color, and then colors that were a little bit, not really, but a little bit closer to this darker brown color. And I wanted to make sure that that I was going to get combed top that was very well blended, very well combined, and I wouldn't run the risk of having spinning yarn and then knitting it and then having a segment of my knitting be slightly darker or slightly lighter. I wanted one very well combined color. So that is why I did that. It's not to get the super long length of fiber. You could do it for that reason if you wanted just to have one super long length of fiber, but I have no issues joining fibers. The purpose of this was to get a really well combined color, very well blended color. So I think that's it. I thought I'd have more to talk about. Well, I guess I do actually. Sorry, I have more to talk about. Okay, so I wanted to just quickly mention that there's some good information on multi-coated breeds and how to handle their fiber in this book. This is the Spinners Book of Fleece, and it's different than the Fleece and Fiber source book because the Fleece and Fiber source book really just talks about breeds of sheep. It doesn't get into, well, it talks about different places and some of the background and some of the different sheep breeds that might have went into making that breed and that kind of stuff. But it doesn't talk about washing, preparing, how to deal with that certain kind of, a little bit, but this goes into more depth on how to deal with fine fibers, medium fibers, which they don't really have a medium fiber section in this book, but long wools and multi-coated or primitive breeds. So this is a good book for that kind of information. And it has some information on multi-coated breeds, which includes Shetland and Icelandic. There's what they've included for multi-coated breeds. I don't know if you can see that. Includes Navajo Churro, Scottish Blackface, Romanov, a few others. So let's see. It has information on separating the coats. So it talks about how to separate the coats. One way is to use a comb and then use that to hold the fiber while you pull off the longer outer coat. And then it has specific breeds, including Shetland. So here's the Shetland page. Little ram, and it talks about like different samples that this lady has spun and knit, and you know, like a single versus a 2-ply versus a worsted prep versus a woolen prep. So she talks about different things like that. Anyways, I thought the information on how to handle the double coats, whether or not you want to separate it or leave it together, was good information to read in this book. So I just wanted to mention that, that's all. And then I almost forgot that I wanted to mention, I'm using this book as an example, but not necessarily, it's not necessarily what I will use. But I do want, my goal is to process Shetland wool from a fleece in a variety of natural colors. So I already have, well, I'm going to say 4 colors. Maybe I could just say 3 colors, but I'm going to say 4 colors. I still haven't decided what I'm going to, I did forget, like I forgot this too. I have these, sorry, here, hold on. I have these 2 bags of this fleece number 2. So here's some of that wool in this bag here. And I have 2 bags because I did separate, I painstakingly separated. This bag is slightly lighter than this bag because I'm really wanting to avoid that, like I said, having lighter sections in my knitting. I want very well blended colors. So I did pull out all of the lighter color fiber, put it in this bag, all of the darker color, put it in this bag, and I used a darker colored plastic bag, just reusing a plastic bag I already had. And then the same for this, a lighter bag for the lighter wool. Makes sense, right? I wanted to see, let's see if I can find, here it is. Okay, so this, even in the lightest section, there are these few kind of like weirdly light spots. And I'm trying to see if I can get a darker, well, let's just compare it to one of the darker pieces. Okay, so here's one of the darker pieces, and here's this like very light, much lighter color. So it's really not coming off as well as I want it to, as well as I can see it in person. This color is almost my cardigan color. This color is much darker. So there are a couple spots that were this fawn color, I think. Okay, so back to what I was saying about what I want to make with this. So I definitely want to make some sort of natural color work project where I use only natural colors from Shetland that I have processed from fleece to yarn and then knit into a garment. So I do love a couple of patterns in here. I've talked about them before, so I don't want to continue bringing them up all the time. But there are 2 that I love a lot. One is this one. And let's see, it's brass. I'm just going to say brasse. And this is a book by Moorit Chocolate. And then the other one is Unst, and I think I'm saying that right. It's an island, one of the Shetland Islands, I believe, and that's Unst. So you can also check these out on Ravelry. I really like this cardigan a lot. The only problem I have with it is that the pattern instructions are not written for steeking and knitting in the round. It's written to be knit flat and then join the seams, but I find that very intimidating, having to purl and color work. Knitting color work flat is nothing I've done before. I've never tried that. And it also sounds like it would be more time consuming and possibly frustrating. So if I did this, I would want to figure out how to make the pattern, how to knit in the round, I guess up to the armholes. I've heard that you can also steek the armholes, but I don't know, okay, so if anybody out there is watching this and you have experienced steeking, a lot of experience preferably, steeking, altering patterns for garments, like how to alter a pattern so that you can steek a cardigan and then steek the armholes so that I could knit this in the round. I don't know what you do about the sleeves. Would you? I don't know. I have no idea what you would have to knit the sleeves flat. I don't know. I don't know any of this information. I don't know how to steek armholes. I've seen steeking the front of a sweater. That doesn't seem too bad, but I just don't know anything about steeking armholes and how that works. I know it's the same process, but like how you do the stitches and how you just deal with the numbers and the placement of the steek and everything. I would want to know all of that, make sure that I know exactly how to do all of that before even considering making that, so I just don't think that's a good idea. But I really do love this cardigan. I really love this cardigan. Even if I like bought yarn and made it, that might be a better idea than using my precious hand-spun, hand-processed, wool, this stuff, and risking it like turning out, to be a disaster. But if you guys know of any resources on how to do that, if there are any blogs, tutorials, I don't think there are any videos that I've seen that go into detail on how to modify a cardigan like that. I think there are some very brief instructions in this book, but that's just, okay, so look, there's steeking right here. But I don't think this is going to be enough information for me to feel confident. Like I'm going to want to see more photos, more, preferably videos would be great. But definitely like in-depth photos and in-depth instructions on how you alter these patterns. I really wish you had just written a pattern that way. That would have been wonderful. But anyways, I'll probably end up doing a different pattern initially. Although I really love that cardigan. But yeah, one way or another, this will be a colorwork sweater made with only natural colors, and it will likely probably be just a typical sweater, a pullover, or what do you call it, a jumper. So anyways, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully you found it useful and informative, and yeah, I love sharing this journey with you guys, and that's why I'm here showing you sharing all of this information with you guys. I really hope that you enjoy it. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.